So I finally come back home to relax and enjoy my well overdue holidays after being in some ridiculous temperatures out in the middle of nowhere, only to experience similar temperatures in my shed at home with Red. Now I'm going to change my oil today. This is the run-in oil that is still in there. So let's go ahead and have a look at how that's going. Now I just wanted to move my Red 124 to a better location so I could get it on the hoist a bit better. It wasn't centralized correctly after the last time I drove it. Air conditioning still nice and cold despite the ridiculous temperature inside. And it only took a matter of moments till the engine was at operating temperature. It's quite ridiculous. And I'm using a very scientific apparatus today. I'm using my oil inspection fruit bowl just to have a look at what the oil looks like as it first comes out the sump. So I've got that safely positioned, although I end up holding that a bit higher by hand just to get enough out there so I can have a close look at it after it has settled for a while. Now pleasingly this oil doesn't actually look too bad. I mean, it is very thin because it's well overdue for replacement. This is run-in oil. It is supposed to be changed after 500 kilometers of driving. It just so happens that when you have an unregistered car, it takes a considerable amount of effort to get to 500 kilometers. I don't even know if I did get to 500. I just drove until the first tank was empty, and that's where we're at now. Yeah, it's got the viscosity of water almost. It's ridiculously thin, so I should have changed this quite some time ago. But fortunately there's no metal floating around in that oil. There's no water contamination. Not bad at all, really. Got to this point here where the majority of it is out, and of course I decided to do things back to front, and that's when I decided to open up the oil filter housing. I probably should have done that when it was on the ground instead of up in the air, because it's even more difficult to access now. Nonetheless, with the air filter out the way, I do have easy access to that oil filter. However, I did have to stand on a plastic chair to reach up there. Removing this style is remarkably easy. The oil filter strap wrench works perfectly well on these, as well as the metal cap that I have on my other M104. This is the late style, that's all you can get now. And when that's removed, a little bit more oil flows out more easily. One thing I forgot about is I still haven't installed my vent line to my fuel pressure regulator, and I have not sealed over the fine adjustment of my airflow meter potentiometer. So the vent line connects to that crankcase breather hose underneath. I will get one of those later in the week. Unfortunately, I only had red silicon. Ideally it should be black, but you're not going to see it anyway, and it should be sensor safe so as to not destroy the variable resistor inside there. Now this is what I was most interested in seeing, the actual pleats of the original oil filter that this engine has first started on. Yes, you can see some swarf inside there from the machining process. Remember that I've gone from 3 litres to 3.2 and a bit. I've got second oversized 3.2 litre pistons in there, so a heck of a lot of material was bored out from those cylinders. Fortunately, most of it was washed out obviously at the machine shop, but there are still little bits of swarf that the filter has caught. So the filter has done its job. I'm not unhappy with these results at all. Fortunately, I did not see anything floating around in the oil when I drained it out, so good job, filter. But it's now time to retire and get a new one in there. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Once again, I just tighten that up by hand and then finish that off with the strap wrench. And that's all nice and tight now. And when that finishes draining completely, it's time to screw the plug in and fill her up. Now, while I'm down here and the sump is empty, I thought it would be a good idea to have a look at the state of this oil level switch. They are notorious for leaking, and this one is no exception. It's already started. This is the original. I did not fit a new one. But as far as leaks are concerned, this is actually not that bad. It's only a little bit leaky and a little bit wet. So I probably could have left that, but I've got a new one on the shelf, so I might as well fit it. And it's extremely easy to do when the sump is empty. Simply two 10mm bolts. So that's the old one there. And as you can see, it's not covered in varnish like the one from my blue-black car was, so this car has enjoyed regular oil changes throughout its life. Although I did clean out that sump when I rebuilt the engine, there wasn't a great deal of varnish from memory. And the new one is installed, and it's just a case of connecting that 1-pin connector. Job done. And then it was time to fill 7.5 litres of engine oil. And of course, checking the dipstick before starting the engine, though I already know I've got the correct quantity in there. Well, oil change is complete and engine is at operating temperature. Now this is full synthetic 10W40 oil that's in here. I suspect that this is probably going to be so lightweight for this engine because yes, it has been rebuilt. It does not have an OEM oil pump. It has a Febi brand one. And also, if you're not aware, there's multiple standard size bearing shells you select from when these engines are brand new. Naturally, all of those variants on standard are no longer available, so there's only one standard size now. My crankshaft has been polished and I have refitted standard bearing shells. So there will be greater clearances than was there from the factory. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to drive it today because I don't have any fuel for one, and I'm not registered to drive it. Next drive will be to the inspection station when I'm actually ready to have it inspected. My God, it is hot today, and I don't believe that temperature indicator. It's either the module itself or the outside temperature sensor that is about 10 degrees off, because it is ridiculously hot in here. The aircon is working well. The aircon is requesting the auxiliary fans at half speed as well, so that's probably what you can hear in the background. The engine is nice and smooth and silent. It is very happy with this oil. The stuff that was in there was well past due to be changed. It was complete garbage. It was very thin, so that's not helping the viscosity situation, or the oil pressure situation I should say. So I'm just going to drive the car backwards and forwards to settle out the suspension, try not to crash it in the process, and then park it up until I can finish it. I'm going to get some more hard line for the vent tube on my fuel pressure regulator, hopefully on Wednesday when my associate that has an MB workshop goes back to work, because I don't have any. I seem to have used it all. Once this is registered, I can put the decent cluster in here that will say 0, but who cares? It's only going to be me that drives this car, and I'll get my decent steering wheel. recovered and installed as well. And yeah, it is so hot in here that the engine got to operating temperature within like 3 minutes. Already that oil pressure is looking better than it was, because I seem to recall we're sitting around 1 bar. Anything below a couple thousand RPM, so even going up to 1,000 it goes back up to 3 again. So a definite improvement.